Hello, Jordan Sheridan, live Monday, July 31st, 2023, right here in the United Corporations of America. Hope everybody's having a nice Monday, nice weekend, nice summer. If you can escape the climate inferno, which is really engulfing pretty much the entire United States, most of the globe. If you watch the cable news segments on the Inferno, you might get some mention of climate change, kind of, sort of mentioned at the end of the segment. But it is really, really brutal out there today in New York area. It's a little less severe than it was last week, but it's still pretty hot, pretty humid. So I am actually currently trying to figure out where I'm going to go next on the road, but I've had to factor in, like, do I really want to travel for a week in August and melt throughout the United States? For those Status Coup viewers who have watched us over the years, over the summer, the last 2 years, we've done kind of economic reporting trips. During COVID, the beginning of COVID, we did what we called the other pandemic trip, which was a week and a half, I think, on the road, interviewing people about their struggles, struggling to pay the rent, bills going up, loans, homelessness. Then last summer, we did a reporting tour for 2 weeks on inflation, on homelessness, on people really, struggling to pay bills, having to choose between necessities. And it was hot because it was a summer, but it wasn't like 110 degrees hot. Now you kind of have to factor that in when you're planning reporting trips during the summer. So we'll figure it out. But we are, I'll wait till more people are here before I start talking about what we're going to be doing on the road coming up. We also are going to be having a members call this week. I'm thinking, what's today, Monday? I'm thinking Thursday. So I'll wait for more people to trickle in. We're going to take calls later in this live stream, so that's exciting. So get your phones ready. We'll take kind of an open mic phone calls on the election, the climate inferno, dealer's choice, whatever you want. So smash that like button, share the live stream. The more people that press like, the more people that will see the live stream. Super chats are very, very appreciated and needed. We definitely could use an influx of dinero to help us afford the on-the-ground reporting. As always, I'm doing some background in investigative reporting. So I'm working right now on something on East Palestine, Flint, and fingers crossed, might have a little momentum as far as the book I am working on Flint, on the cover-up. So hopefully I'll have something to announce on that front relatively soon. And before we get to the first topic, if you didn't see this weekend, we posted an interview I did with the United Auto Workers, a General Motors worker, a UAW member from Toledo, Ohio, about the contract negotiations going on right now and potentially a possible strike, UAW workers strike that might happen in September. So tomorrow's August. So basically in a month from now, you might have a massive UAW strike. Still possibly might have a big UPS strike if workers vote the UPS contract down. Voting, I believe, is underway for the tentative agreement that UPS workers, that the bosses at UPS reached with UPS. The vote will take 3 weeks, and I believe it starts August 3rd. So it should start this week, and I think it goes for 2 or 3 weeks. So between UPS, possible UAW, and that's the big three: General Motors, Ford, Chrysler. We might be busy on top of East Palestine, which Lewis might be going back to soon. And again, I'm working on something else. So keep those super chats coming. Press the like button. We're going to start. It's not looking good. You would think with 2 indictments under Donald Trump's feather, likely a third coming as soon as this week over January 6th. In normal times, in a sane system, you would think that the Democratic president would be beating Donald Trump by 10 to 15 points in head-to-head matchups. Unfortunately for the Democrats, Donald Trump right now in some polls is beating Joe Biden. And in the polls that Joe Biden is beating Donald Trump, it's by the margin of error. And according to CNN, the chances of Donald Trump beating Joe Biden are, quote, very real. And this comes after a New York Times Siena poll that came out this morning, where Donald Trump is at 54% of the vote in the Republican primary. I didn't send this to Colin, so let me just make sure I have the number right. Donald Trump is at Donald Trump right now is at 54%, DeSantis at 17%. So that's in the primary. Let's take a look at what CNN, who obviously I criticize often, but their data guy, their pollster is pretty decent. This is from a CNN article. The headline, the chance of Trump winning another term is very real. Here we go. If I could find, of course, winning the primary is one thing for Trump, who has led in almost every single Republican primary poll published in the past 8 years. What should arguably be more amazing is that despite most Americans agreeing that Trump's 2 indictments thus far were warranted, he remains competitive in a potential rematch with Biden. A poll out last week from Marquette University had Biden and Trump tied percentage-wise, with statistically insignificant few more respondents choosing Trump. The Marquette poll is one of a number of surveys showing Trump either tied or ahead of Biden. The ABC News Washington poll has published 3 surveys of the matchup between the two, and Trump has come out ahead, albeit within the margin of error every time. Other pollsters have shown Biden only narrowly ahead. To put that in perspective, Trump never led in a single national poll that met CNN standards for publication for the entirety of the 2020 campaign. Biden was up by high single digits in the late summer of 2019. Biden is up by maybe a point in the average of all 2024 polls today. Surveys in the late summer of 2015 told the same story. Clinton was up by double digits over Trump in late July and up by mid to high single digits at the end of 2015. The fact that the polling between Biden and Trump is so close shouldn't be much of a surprise. I disagree. Elections are a choice between 2 candidates. Trump isn't popular, but neither is Biden. The 2 in tandem would be the most disliked presidential nominees in polling history if their numbers hold through the election. All that being said, the 2024 election will probably come down to a few swing states. Polling in swing states has been limited because we're still over a year from the election. One giant warning sign for Democrats was a late June Quinnipiac poll from Pennsylvania, pivotal state for the past few election cycles, where Trump rallied base supporters in Erie on Saturday. The state barely voted for Trump in 2016 and for Biden in 2020. Trump was up on Biden by 1 point in the Quinnipiac poll, a result within the margin of error, but nevertheless a remarkable achievement for the former president. Why? It was only the second Pennsylvania poll that met CNN standards for publication since 2015 that had Trump ahead of either Biden or Clinton. So obviously we're pretty far out from the general election, but I think the key part of what CNN was describing, and again, smash the like button, share this live stream, keep those super chats coming. I'm going to read them probably right before we take calls. We will be taking your phone calls later. Probably in like 20 minutes. So what I think is really interesting about that is in 2020, Trump was behind in every national poll. If you looked at the states, it was closer, but the national polls, he was behind. His handling of COVID really sunk him. In my opinion, a lot more people died that needed to die because of how horrible Trump handled COVID. The country was in crisis, and honestly, a paper bag might have beat Trump at that point. But the fact is, twice indicted, all the drama that is coming with Donald Trump, and he is beating Biden in several of these polls. When in 2020, no indictments, this was pre-January 6th, he was losing in every poll. How do you have a Democratic president that is crowing and you have this media machine that is pushing out this message of Bidenomics and everything is great and the economy is roaring, losing to an indicted former president who has no coherent policy, who's doing deranged tweeting all day or whatever you call it, truthing? How? Well, if you look at other poll numbers, it's because people are seeing through all of this Bidenomics bullshit and all of this fairy dust that has been fed to us over the last 30 to 40 years by Democrats and Republicans and the media, that the economy is a collection of GDP, the stock market, and the unemployment number. And everything is good if those things are good. Colin, let's show some of the polling numbers that I sent you. This is from CBS. Biden's approval rating right now, 34%. 34%. That's down from 60% soon after re-election. I don't really know many incumbents that stand a chance of winning if their approval ratings is at 34%. Next poll. Words to describe the U.S. economy. Struggling, 61%. Uncertain, 56%. 36%. Unfair, 27%. Punishing, rebounding at 15%. Expanding at 11%. I'm not a big fan of James Carville. We'll get into him in a minute, but he's right. It's the economy, stupid. And put that back up for a second. Literally, you have the majority of sentiment is overwhelmingly negative. The first positive thing you hear is only 15% think it's rebounding. And that would generally be for hedge fund managers, financial lawyers, and real estate developers, not you and I. If you look at more of this CBS poll, this came out, I believe, yesterday. Bidenomics, what comes to mind? Higher inflation, tax increases, investments in infrastructure, job creation. So it's all negative. It's all negative. And there's one more. I think there's one more poll I sent you.
Those were the only three I had here.
Okay. Hold on. Oh, I didn't. Okay. So basically you have pretty crappy economic numbers. And the Democrats, of course, if you could show this, plot middle-class message to retake the economic high ground. So this has happened pretty much in every cycle that I've covered things, where the Democrats seem to think that it's a messaging problem. We just need to explain to the poor, frustrated masses, you're not getting it. You're not seeing how much we've done for you. You're not seeing, oh no, the door must be closed. You're missing the bidet that we put next to your toilet. This from the Washington Post. Democrats are plotting a middle-class message to retake economic high ground. Quote, the secret slide deck started circulating in June, intended as a wake-up call to top Democrats in Congress, the White House, and state capitals across the country about a dangerous flaw in the Democratic brand. Based on 6 months of polling and focus groups, the document showed the party losing badly to Republicans on the most important single issue to voters, the economy. Voters said Democrats focus too much on cultural and social issues and not enough on pocketbook issues. The message of economic fairness was a loser compared with growing the economy, a regular GOP refrain. Quote, challenge is one of volume and message clarity, reads the opening slide of a presentation that has now been seen by hundreds of party leaders and activists. Democrats should anchor your economic message around growing the middle class. The effect was almost immediate. Day after their briefings, leaders in the House and Senate, including House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries and Senator Warren, started sneaking growing the middle class into social media posts and statements. Biden, who has long embraced grow the middle class, returned to it with a June speech meant to rebrand his policy as Bidenomics. The behind-the-scenes attempt at a political rebranding is just one of several efforts as Democrats wrestle with the vulnerabilities they expect in next year's presidential election. Along with concerns about Biden's age and worries about lower turnout among the urban base, Democrats see the party's faded economic approval as a top concern. So, to be clear, the answer for Democrats is not what can we do policy-wise now to boost all these numbers. It's not, are there any executive actions the president can take to boost jobs, healthcare, do something real on the climate now that we are in the global boiling era? Repeat, global boiling, they're now calling it. And remember, smash the like button, share this live stream. We got one super chat so far. I'm kindly asking, would love to get some more super chats. I'll read them in a little bit. We could definitely use some more revenue, particularly to support the on-the-ground reporting that we're hoping to do over the next few weeks. I'll get to some of those details later. So it's not a policy problem. We don't need to do anything on executive actions. Biden doesn't have to do anything real on the climate catastrophe. Biden doesn't even need to mention minimum wage, even though he ran on a $15 minimum wage. He doesn't need to talk to voters about, make any promises about how he will deliver a higher minimum wage if reelected, if the Democrats retake the House. We don't need to talk about going higher than a $15 minimum wage, which at this point is the conservative position. This is just a messaging problem. I don't know. Let me know in the chat. I started covering politics 2013. I started paying attention 2004. I feel like every single election cycle, every single time, it's the same bad record. We have a messaging problem. How many times have you seen Nancy Pelosi go on Meet the Press, CNN, the Washington Post, writing the same articles, Democrats going all out on a message reboot? This is not a messaging issue. This is a lack of basic soul issue. This is a lack of basic delivery. You have not delivered anything substantial other than unemployment insurance, a $1,200 or $1,400 check, depending on how you see it, a nice kick in the ass after that, and a temporary Band-Aid of the child tax credit, which was great if they didn't cut it after a year. And I don't want to hear about the 50-50 Democratic Senate and Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. Biden's the president. It's on him. He should have led. He should have fought them. He should have went on a public crusade against Manchin and Sinema. He didn't. So no wonder people think the economy is in the shitter, because GDP does not affect the individual. The low unemployment number does not affect the individual, even if you have a job. Jobs, meaning a low unemployment level, less unemployment claims, does not equate to living wage jobs, strong, vibrant union jobs. We are living in a decaying corpse that is a country. We are living in a growing gig economy, a growing AI economy. We are living in a country with very little labor protections, as you're seeing from UPS, UAW. Reminder, I just interviewed a General Motors worker over the weekend. Go check that out. You might see a UAW or General Motors strike coming up in September. So that's what I interviewed them about. I don't really know what they could do in terms of messaging. You could say, grow the middle class till you're blue in the fucking face. The problem is the people receiving the message are no longer in the middle class, because the middle class is basically hanging off the Titanic. Smash the like button, share this live stream. Got 200 people watching. Let's get more people. So you got the bad economic numbers. You have Democrats are now pushing the message reboot, which I've heard before. Let's show the email that I received from James Carville. not individually. This was one of the emails he sent out. I'm lucky enough to be on all the email lists, so I get all the Democrat emails begging for money and hyperventilating. So this one was from Friday, I think. If you're not worried, you're not paying attention. Subject line. I'm having trouble sleeping at night, team. I don't even know if James Carville really wrote this, but you know, these emails say from James Carville, having trouble sleeping at night, team. Every day I read about all the wild things the Republicans are doing with their majority in the House. We've got Kevin McCarthy letting Marjorie Taylor Greene run the show. Social Security, Medicare, affordable insulin, and basic reproductive rights are under attack. It's nuts. I'm sorry. Affordable insulin is under attack? Did I miss something where we have affordable insulin? I know Biden did something for Medicare recipients, insulin. That was a good thing. But do we have affordable insulin for the masses that is now under attack? I must have missed that because one of my good friends has diabetes and he has gone nearly bankrupt trying to afford it after he lost his job and healthcare. So not sure about that one. We also have President Biden has continued some of Donald Trump's backdoor policies that are basically trying to privatize Medicare. If you live in New York City, you know about that. New York City Mayor Eric Adams has tried to kick New York City retirees who earned their Medicare, paid into it their whole working lives, trying to kick them off Medicare and force them onto Medicare Advantage. Democrat Eric Adams. Carville says, so there's one question I've got to ask you. Do you want these clowns running the Senate too? Because unless we act right now, that's what's going to happen. Fact is, if we lose the Senate, we're toast. 538 says that if Mitch McConnell takes our majority, we might not get it back until 2032. And now we're way behind on our key end of the month fundraising goal. Just to keep up, we've launched a rare triple impact match. Whoa. Say that 3 times fast. Triple impact match. So that every dollar you give will go 3 times as far, but it expires soon. So don't wait. Oh my God. Whoever's writing these things, you really need some marketing help. I need you with us. Will you chip in $5? It becomes 15 or more before the end of the month deadline to stop Mitch McConnell and all his goons from taking control of the Senate. So I hate to pick on good old James Carville. And, you know, he is right. I, for one, I don't think it would be great if the Republicans were running anything. I don't think it's great if the Democrats are running anything. We should be worried about Marjorie Taylor Greene and her gang of fascists. We should be worried about Kevin McCarthy because he's obviously just a puppet for Donald Trump. I don't want Republicans to take control of the Senate. I don't want Republicans to take control of the White House. But I'm also not going to lie that James Carville gives a damn about you, that any of these people sending out emails. We'll get fundraising emails from Obama. We're going to get fundraising emails from Dick Durbin. We're going to get fundraising emails from all the gang. Nancy Pelosi. We'll have fundraising emails from Debbie Wasserman Schultz. We're going to get fundraising emails from the ghost of Dianne Feinstein or one of her aides that's going to write it. You're going to get fundraising emails from all of them. Chris Murphy. And they're all going to say the same thing to a different degree. Existential crisis, defeat fascism, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, how many of you held your nose and voted for Biden in 2020? How many of you held your nose and voted for Democrats in the midterms, whether it was because of Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade or whatever? You were told this is the most important election of our lifetime. You were told $15 minimum wage. You were told a public option. You were told he would stop drilling on public lands. Told a lot of things. None of that has happened. In fact, they're not even pretending that they're going to do any of those things. The last time we had a minimum wage increase was 2009. This is the longest period without a minimum wage increase in American history. And you have unprecedented inflation. They could say, oh, it's down to 3%. I don't know. Where I am, gas is creeping back up. I don't know about you. Gas is creeping back up. Grocery prices are still through the roof. I saw a New York Times story that rental prices are finally going down. But if you look at those rental prices going down, the rent is still too damn high. Maybe the Democratic Party should consider trying to do something policy-wise that might actually show the voters action rather than more talk and rhetoric about messaging, which is a bunch of bullshit. I want to show one more thing here before we start taking calls. And this is very, very important. And this should be, to me, it's not Cornel West they should be worrying about, who I think could do a lot better than any third-party candidate has done. I think he could do a lot better than Jill Stein did in 2016. I think, depending on how he runs his campaign, could even get somewhere close to Ross Perot's numbers. But in addition to James Carville saying he's wetting the bed at night, you're now starting to see worried Democrats about the fleeing black voters that are leaving Democrats. Headline, Washington Post: Democrats worry their most loyal voters won't turn out for Biden in 2024. Democrats are worried about a potential drop next year in turnout among black voters, the party's most loyal constituency, who played a consequential role in delivering the White House to President Biden in 2020 and will be crucial in his bid for re-election. Their concern stems from a 10 percentage point decline in black voter turnout in last year's midterms compared with 2018, a bigger drop than among any other racial or ethnic group, according to the Washington Post analysis of the Census Bureau's turnout survey. Such warning signals were initially papered over by other Democratic successes in 2022. The party picked up a U.S. Senate seat in Pennsylvania. Senator Raphael Warnock won re-election in Georgia, and anticipated losses in the House were minimal. But in key states like Georgia, the center of Democrats' plans to mobilize black voters in large margins for Biden in 2024, turnout in last year's midterms was much lower among younger and male black voters, according to internal party analysis. The drop in black turnout has become a focus for Democratic leaders as the party reorients it to next year's presidential contest. Biden's election in 2020 hinged on narrow victories in states like Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania that former President Trump won in 2016. Well, here's an idea, specifically in Georgia. Maybe cutting down huge chunks of one of the last public forests in Atlanta. By the way, Atlanta is the reason Biden won Georgia in 2020. More black people came out to vote for him in Atlanta than had previously, particularly suburban Atlanta. Maybe cutting down large swaths of the forest to ram through a militarized police compound isn't going to rev up and excite black voters to come out for you. The devil's advocate could say, well, Jordan, they don't know. Jordan, that's not Biden. That's the Democrats in Atlanta. That's the Democrats on the Atlanta City Council. That's the Atlanta mayor. Well, I don't particularly think the black voters in Atlanta, and by the way, white voters are overwhelmingly against it too. I don't particularly think they're separating between Biden and the Democrats pushing this totally unnecessary policy through. I think they're just thinking the Democratic Party is pushing this through. I haven't heard the president speak out against this. I haven't heard the Democrat senators speak out against this. Probably not wise. If you haven't seen some of our coverage of Cop City, let's show you the latest, which was literally them arresting a grandma for protesting outside Home Depot. Yes, protesting outside Home Depot, which is a funder of Cop City, will now lead to the Atlanta police terrorizing old ladies.
I'm here in front of the Home Depot. Again, we're here in Atlanta covering the Cop City protests. There was a protest and rally that was scheduled for tonight. Home Depot is one of the big donators to not only the Police Foundation, but also to the building of Cop City. Their VP of Tech sits on the board of the Atlanta Police Foundation. So there was going to be a protest tonight, just dealing with those issues in a rally that was supposed to start at 5 o'clock. When we got here, there was a handful of protesters being basically chased through the parking lot by the Atlanta Police Department. 2 of them arrested out here in front.
I said Home Depot did not want y'all here.
I did not get told anything of the sort, or else I wouldn't be doing this, ma'am. I did not get told anything like that, and I wouldn't be doing that if I had been told that, ma'am.
We're having our free speech protest. This is a boycott. Stop Cop City. Divest from hate.
I was not told this. Are you hearing
Yes,
me?
I did tell you
You
that.
didn't, ma'am. I did not hear a thing
Okay.
you said if you said something like that. Really? I did not get told that out there was private property and that I couldn't hold a sign. I did not get told that. I was told that. I did not get told that. I was not told that when I was walked up to, and I was just hooked. That's ridiculous. I cannot afford to go to prison. Really, I was not told.
Yeah. Arresting old ladies after assassinating an environmental protester. They killed Tortuguita, who was an environmental protester. Probably not going to get you the black vote in Atlanta or anywhere for that matter, nor should it. You then have the gentrification going on all over this country, which is disproportionately harming black voters. I covered last summer, if you remember, a story about a government housing complex where the overwhelmingly black tenants were being forced out because of a greedy landlord. If you didn't see that, let me show you a clip from that.
But this is a message. This is a message for all the communities across the country that's going through the same thing we're going through right now. I'm going to address y'all directly. A statement of defiance needs to be had for those that are being displaced and put out in these streets. I'm addressing y'all directly right now. Stand up, because if you don't, you lose. We lose as a people if you do nothing. So standing up is vitally important.
They gave unemployment, a few small checks to everybody else. But for folks like you, a voucher that could barely cover the cost of a bathroom at this point. I mean, how is it that we're the wealthiest country on earth, a democracy, but plenty of money for the wealthy, the corporations, plenty of money for war, but for folks like you who have lived here for 30 years, hey, take this little coupon, good luck.
Yeah, and that's what we're fighting against. This is not. It's bigger than Philly. It's a global issue. Housing is a global issue, but in this country, it's a national atrocity that has gone unaddressed for far too long, and people across the country are starting to stand up. And when you have that many people that have been born in a struggle or have lived the struggle for multiple years or multiple decades or what have you, people are going to stand up, because the system works against us already, and people just continue to take from us in the system. Like, no, somebody has to stand their ground. People have to stand their ground, and we are the start of a movement to stand on our ground and fighting for the community that we built.
So you could say, well, Jordan, that's not all Biden's fault. No, it's not all Biden's fault. But at the end of the day, if you're the president, you're in charge of it all. Your party's in charge of it. Federal level, state level, local level. Democrats run Philadelphia, too. That's where that was going on. And they were forced out of that government housing complex. Behind you was tense because literally people from the community came to protest on their behalf. They were kicking those residents out, mostly black, a lot of older, disabled tenants who have lived there for 30 years during the worst heat of the summer. This was last summer, by the way. I want to show you some other things because it doesn't, you could have news articles talking about data or this and that, but I think why we emphasize on the ground reporting, and again, if you're not a Status Coup member, that's what membership does. It funds our on-the-ground reporting, statuscoup.com/join. We're going to do our monthly members call on Thursday this week at 7 o'clock Eastern. That's 4 o'clock Pacific. So if you're a Status Coup member through the website, Patreon or a YouTube member, you'll get the link to join our members call. We usually go for about an hour or two. It's through Zoom. We have a lot of fun. If you can't make it Thursday night, it's recorded, so you can watch it after. But I want to show you a recap for those who have seen this. Sorry, you have to watch it again. Won't be painful. I want to show you a recap. This was some of our reporting tour last summer. We went on the road for about a week and a half through a couple states, covering inflation, homelessness, people struggling. It's striking to be watching this because I literally don't think anything has changed. I actually think things have gotten worse for most of the people I interviewed then. Let's take a look.
6 hearings may be taking a break, but revelations about Donald Trump's complicity in
the House January 6th committee is getting ready for prime time,
including the actions that took place on the day of January 6th.
New developments today in the Justice Department's January.
Just everything's rising. When I first got my car, it's a 2016, it was $25 to fill up. Now it's probably close to 60, 70.
I always say to people, I only work half days. Half day to me is 12 hours.
We know what inflation is. We've lived it. We're the ones who suffer through it. This is so they can cut programs, they can raise up unemployment, and lay people off and don't pay them a living wage. We know their little game.
I had to count change the other day to put gas in my car to get my daughter to where she needed to go. Like, yeah, it's a struggle, it's a scrape.
Are we in a recession, and does the term matter?
No, we aren't, and no, it doesn't. I mean,
one sentence, that was it, huh?
Yeah, that was it.
Show me where the economy is coming back, and I'll show you a population in the homeless camps that will astound you. It's sickening. There's more people coming every day.
I mean, I don't mind starting all over, but where do you go from here? Because everywhere we go is where they want to build again. And then we got to move again. Build again, and we got to move again.
We're looking at there being enough empty houses in Philly to house every homeless person that's here. And still have houses left over to fix up and rent or sell at market rate.
You can't be in a recession when you've got 300,000 plus jobs being created a month and unemployment at 3.6% and spending where it is. So not in recession yet.
You can't afford gas to protest. And people have to work. They can't take time off of work to go and organize that way.
I'm stressed about I have to make sure we have enough money and make sure I can get gas in the car, I have food and everything. Mode. Yeah, you're just constantly in survivor mode where it's can't think about doing anything else.
Yeah. You can see it was a rip-roaring 2021. The U.S. economy last year, the strongest since the Reagan administration.
If you look at our job market, consumer spending, business investment, we see signs of economic progress.
No, there's... Oh my God. Yeah. Having a family or having a kid right now seems like it...
Impossible.
No, I just can't imagine it happening.
Yeah.
Not in my lifetime getting pregnant.
And now it seems like Akron is hunting its own homeless. It doesn't matter where we go. If we put up a tent, they're there tearing it down. The little bit of personal belongings and memories that we had, Akron has bulldozed over.
And they try to split us. They try to us and them. And it's not a us and them. Republicans, Democrats, we're all out here. We're all working 2 jobs, and now the price of everything is even. We wasn't making it working 2 jobs. What are we supposed to do?
The confluence of a bunch of unusual events at the same time is a different mix. An unknown period during the pandemic, and there were people that needed help. There were people that needed support. Unfortunately, we're not really great at directing in a very specific way to people that need help. We wind up kind of directing it very broadly.
You would have gone smaller, done it differently.
I would have gone smaller.
We keep getting this lip service and we're not getting anything. And at what point are we going to get fed up? I mean, with both parties. I mean, and that's what's happening. Yeah. People are getting fed up with both parties.
Housing is like the elephant in the room that is not getting the attention that it needs because it's the underlying factor for everything. If you're not housed, you can't do shit with your life.
Minimum wage in Philadelphia is a little over $8, might be right around $8 an hour.
Right.
There's no way for you to live on that.
They're not raising the minimum wage.
What's the minimum wage here?
I believe it's $8.10.
But we've watched our rates increase by pennies over the past few years.
all these voters and the Democrats and Republicans, it's just what, red team versus blue team? It's all the same team. It's just bread and circuses, and I'm hoping people will start to see. I'm sure they are.
I'm addressing y'all directly right now. Stand up, because if you don't, you lose. We lose as a people if you do nothing. So standing up is vitally important.
All we have got is you and ourselves to get out here, and we've got to go protest. That's all we've got. We don't have the money for that kind of media, for that kind of outreach. That's the reason it's going to take all of us joining our resources and our voices together.
So there you go. Might have been last year, but has anything changed? No. They could say inflation's better. Well, maybe according to data. I don't think according to most people's reality. And there's a 20-year inflation. It's called gentrification that they don't factor in. Perennial raising rents, house prices, groceries, and things that used to. I remember, I'm dating myself. I remember when I went, I don't know, when I was a kid, I would like ride my bicycle to the deli, get a sandwich for like $4. I ordered a sub last week. A sub. It was like smoked turkey and I don't know, cheese, tomato. It was $15 for a sub. $15. So, yeah, absolutely crazy. And you know what? Honestly, at this point, I don't want Republicans to take over, but I just can't with a straight face say Democrats don't deserve it. This is what you get when you literally do the bidding of Wall Street for 40 years. This is what you get when you do the bidding of big real estate. This is what you get when you do the bidding of fossil fuel companies. This is what you get when you literally are puppets for Silicon Valley, big tech. Were you a feral child, Jordan? No. But if you want to know more about my childhood and other things, call in. Let's start taking phone calls. And please keep those super chats coming. And please sign up as a Status Coup members. I will probably share a little more details a little bit later about some on-the-ground reporting we'd like to do. Colin, if you could put the phone number up for the call program, I will set up the call program. I did sleep last night a little bit better, so I shall be animated. Connect to show. Okay. Let me set up my screen here. All right, Colin, you should have my screen. We could talk about the election. We could talk about the climate inferno. We could talk about Cornel West. I'll talk about anything but the Kardashians. What else don't I want to talk about? I don't like talking about the Kardashians. I don't like talking about, fluffy bullshit. But I'll talk about corruption, economic injustice, and anything else you want to talk about. Do we already have a caller? Awesome. Is that Tennis? I don't know if I'm pronouncing a name right. Here we go. You're up. Oh, John from South Carolina.
Hi. Thank you so much for taking my call. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Really good program so far. I really appreciate you shedding some light on the economy and how it's affecting normal, everyday people. I wanted to talk a lot or get your opinion on something regarding Cornel West.
Sure.
I also want to thank you for your coverage of Cornel West, because Lord knows the corporate media will only vilify him. So your work on that has been great.
Thank you.
But I'm a proud member of the Green Party, and I voted for Jill Stein proudly, and I really look forward to voting for Cornel West, assuming he gets the nomination. But how do you feel about reaching out to those voters in swing states or what they call at-risk states who feel like he is in fact a spoiler candidate. And how do we convince people to put that rhetoric to rest and actually vote for their virtues and their convictions?
Well, I mean, you're either running to like get as many votes as you can, or you're not. So I do not believe in, let's only campaign in, safe states. I think Cornel West, Green Party, if he wins the nomination, should be going into every state, including the swing states. If people want to call me, a fascist enabler, so be it. But as I've meticulously went through, I think the voters that Cornel West would be targeting in the swing states are not really the Biden or Trump voters to begin with. I think you'd be targeting a lot of traditionally non-voters. I think Cornel West would be targeting potentially younger Black voters who, it seems, according to the data, they're already fleeing the Democratic Party. I think potentially targeting some conservative voters too. I think, they might not agree with him on everything, but like some Republicans like Bernie, because they thought he was authentic. So to me, I don't really think you could be running, a 75% campaign. What I mean by that is just, we'll focus on getting the margins up in non-swing states. You got to run in Michigan, you got to run in Wisconsin, you got to run in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, every state. And I think if you want a message or an answer to those who say you're electing Trump, then I think the answer to that is, do you believe in democracy or you don't? Because if you're so worried about Trump and fascism, well, the opposite of fascism is democracy. And in most countries, democracy means, more choices. In most countries, democracy means the candidates and the parties need to make the case. And I would also say, by the data, and I've reported this in several videos, Jill Stein did not make a difference. She is not the reason Hillary Clinton lost. If Jill Stein was not on the ballot, Hillary Clinton would have lost anyway. And I think, we can't for sure say it, but I think you could make the case that if Cornel West was or was not running in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Biden is already very vulnerable in those states in a head-to-head matchup. So there's no reason to think Cornel West is, quote, taking away voters. What my message, if you were answering those, neoliberal warriors, would say, you should probably be worrying less about Cornel West and worrying a lot more about the Black voters that, as of now, are not going to vote, or the young voters who right now are not going to vote, because they're not necessarily going to come out for Cornel West. As of now, a lot of them are just not going to vote. But to me, you gotta. I think you have to run in every state.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ben. All right. Tony D, you're up.
No.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hey there.
Thank you so much for chatting with me.
No problem.
I wanted to ask if you think that the media propaganda about Cornel West being a spoiler is going to be effective. Because we saw this with Bernie Sanders 3 years ago, and it turned out a lot of baby boomers who did watch CNN voted for Joe Biden because of that. Do you think that the media is still as effective at that kind of propaganda as saying he's a spoiler and not a serious candidate?
Honestly, I don't think it's as effective. I've actually been reading up about this. Cable news ratings are in the shit tank. It's been declining. Yeah. It's been declining for years, but even more so now. The media landscape is so fragmented, where you have so many viewers that might have formerly watched CNN or MSNBC or Fox, or might have spent more of their time reading newspapers. They're now kind of splintering off to a variety of different islands, smaller podcasts, bigger podcasts, checking out entirely. So I don't really think, cable news, why it was so influential, is it really dominated the market on the most consistent voter, which is the baby boomers. Not all baby boomers are establishment or, voting for Biden, but in large part, older voters, the baby boomer generation, tend to vote more establishment. But I mean, the ratings for CNN, MSNBC, Fox, since Tucker left, has really declined. The New York Times and Washington Post, they saw a huge surge in paid subscribers during Trump's presidency because they could kind of market themselves as like they didn't definitively market themselves this way, but they were kind of low key the resistance, and that's where affluent, upper middle class people went to read about, everything bad about Trump. But they've been having trouble. The New York Times and Washington Post, they've been losing a lot of the subscriber gains they made when Trump has left, since he's been president. So I don't think it's as influential. And I think the people that might consider Cornel West, for the most part, I think his biggest market or demographic is Black voters under the age of 45 or so. White voters under the age of 45 or so, they are not consuming a ton of CNN. I actually think religious voters, not like hardcore, evangelicals, but, voters who tend to go to church or something like that, but like are not like, pro-life diehards, kind of just people who are spiritual or mildly religious. Cornel West, I think, could connect with those people because obviously he's religious and evokes the Bible and things like that. I think Cornel West could be attractive to blue collar workers. A lot of these, quote, Reagan Democrats that have gone back and forth between voting for Republicans or Democrats. Remember Obama, 10% of Obama voters switched to Trump, and then a good chunk of those went back for Biden. I think a lot of them could consider Cornel West, and I would say there's a very healthy chunk of them that are not consuming just all of this CNN, MSNBC, and all of this shit. I think they're, all over the place. They watch local news, listen to podcasts, or are just kind of tuned out. So I don't think it's going to play as big of a factor. I actually think what's more important than cable news and the spoiler thing is Cornel West himself. Right now, I mean, it's kind of, you're in a tough spot if you're him because you can't really run a formal campaign until you officially win the nomination. But that's not going to happen until I think spring of next year if he wins the nomination. So until then, all he could really do is interviews. So he has to be creative and get out there more. I think that includes getting out there on the picket lines if ultimately UPS strikes, if you see a UAW strike. But even if there's not strikes, he should try to get out there where he could be on the ground with workers at actions, out there if tenants unions are protesting, out there with climate activists. He just needs to be out there next to working class people of color, because obviously that helps gain momentum, gets media attention, etc. So I think he more than the media, I think, will make the difference.
I think if he did what Bernie did and did a lot of different campaign rallies and political rallies like that, I could so easily see him getting a ton of people to go to those rallies, and that creates media attention.
Absolutely. And I also think if he does what Bernie did not do, he could get a lot more media attention. So I think if Cornel West starts coming out swinging, is more critical of Biden. I mean, for example, I'm not his campaign, but it would have been nice to see Cornel West come out bashing Biden after his pathetic climate speech last week. I mean, the whole fucking world is on fire right now, and Biden came out. His big, bold thing is he's opening up more cooling centers. Seriously. So if Cornel West would have come out bashing Biden, he's not lacking for, the numbers of CNN. They'll have him on. He could get on Joe Rogan. He could get, he could do social media videos that could go viral. So he needs to be responding in real time to not only, Trump and Republicans, but also what Biden is not doing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of West because he always, whenever he speaks, he's always very honest and very polite about everyone, and always, even people like Joe Biden, he'll say he loves them, they're his brother, but he'll say when they're full of shit.
Right.
That's what's so great about him.
Right. And I think that makes him appealing to the masses because some voters, I personally don't think this way, but, some people were like, Bernie's just a crank, blah, 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 blah. I thought that was ridiculous. But, most people find West endearing, whether you agree with him or not. But most people find him, charismatic, endearing, optimistic. So totally agree.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Up next, we have Maria.
Hello?
Hey there.
Hi. I guess the Democrats aren't going to be threatened by, I guess, somebody withholding their votes for them. I mean, they have their big money sponsors, prepared to make sure they've got some kind of sinecure fake job where they can just get money for free, basically forever after they get out of office.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by and large, like the entire sort of electoral system is pretty much a sham.
Well, it does it sure seems to be deja vu every 4 years. The same messaging, the same stuff about this is the most important election of our lifetime, the same emails coming out asking for money based on the same exact fear mongering. So, yeah.
Yeah, every country in the West has something of a duopoly going where, no matter which of the two they vote for, and if they don't vote for one of those two, it's not really viable, or they just coalition with them in the proportional representation parliament. And, it's the same dilemma across the entire West. It's the same tactic.
Right.
And over the course of the Cold War, there were steps taken to make sure the rest of the West, especially Europe, didn't vote for communists. Or if they did, it wouldn't count.
Right.
And I think, or I'm pretty sure that whatever they were doing over there, which is, I guess you can look up the name Gladio, they pretty much have the same thing going on at home too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're guaranteed not to get anything out of a vote. Because
I do think there is.
Go ahead.
I think there's two different parts of the Democratic Party. I think there's one part that they are not sincere about all the, fascism, existential crisis, because for them, and I'm talking about the Democratic Party's consultants, the think tanks, definitely their media allies. For them, if Biden loses, not so bad. They'll make a whole lot of money if Trump is president again. A whole lot of money, between the marches and the protests and the fundraising emails, give us $10 and we'll fight Trump on XYZ. Obviously, I'm not minimizing Trump. I mean, I think it is a threat if he becomes president again. However, there's a lot of money to be had in being the opposition, particularly against an authoritarian type. And a lot of consultants and think tanks made a shit ton of money on the Democratic side while Trump was president. So I think there is a healthy part of both parties that do like being in the minority. But there is parts of the machine of the Democratic Party that know if Biden loses, then they're going to lose their gravy train and might lose their jobs in the machine. But I do agree with you in terms of, at the end of the day, are things so much different in terms of the dynamic between like Obama 2015, 2016 as his last year and Biden now? We had Democrats back then saying, just give us more Democrats. If we get one or two more senators, we'll do X, Y, and Z. If we just get X, Y, and Z. We'll be able to raise the minimum wage, this and that. Literally, I should just start saving the emails spaced out every 8 years. And it's the same shit over and over. I mean, for 30 years, they ran on lowering prescription drug prices. And now they're claiming they did, even though the lowering prescription drug prices technically doesn't even begin until 2026. And we still don't know what drugs prices are being lowered. We only know that they're about 10. So I think a lot of it is theater.
And all for Medicare recipients.
Yeah. I think a lot of this is theater. I mean, I'm not saying don't vote, but I am saying a lot of this is theater. And I'm not, I don't know. On one part, the Jimmy Dore school of thought, which was always you have to make them fear that they're going to lose. You're not going to vote for them. That's the only way they'll do something for you. I always said, well, I've never seen evidence that if the Democrats lose, that makes them move to the left. I mean, Hillary Clinton lost in 2016 and they moved to the right and blamed Russia. So I don't know. I don't really buy into if you just withhold your vote for I say vote for whoever you want, but I don't believe there's evidence that if enough people stop voting for Democrats, that'll make them move to the left, because that would suggest that their main priority is winning. And I don't think their main priority is winning. I think their main priority is keeping the status quo. And the status quo for the leaders of the Democratic Party does not change whether they are in power or they're not.
The way I always put it is the Dems pays master's orders are not to defeat the Republicans. They're to defeat us.
Yes. You got it. Well put.
Okay.
Well said.
So, given that, it's basically like futile to even bother with the electoral system. I mean, it's, basically until there's like a Vladimir Lenin-like figure who pops up or movement, whatever, Bolshevik-like movement or whatever, it's pretty much screwed here.
Yep. That's why I was so attracted to Bernie in the first place, because to me, the root of a lot of our issues is not having universal health care. If you look at France, for example, why do you always see such organized and massive protests? Because they have basic benefits as part of society: healthcare, strong labor unions. They have a strong safety net as a citizen, and you don't have to be petrified to go out and protest. Because if you lose your job, first off, you're not going to lose your job from going out to protest because of labor protections. But let's say you did, you have healthcare, so like life isn't over. Here, I mean, how many people are afraid to go to the bathroom at work too many times, let alone go out and be protesting and raising hell, because they need that health insurance for them and their children. They need, the pensions, the benefits, all that. So in capitalism, basically, they weaponize our security against us.
All the social democracy stuff's being rolled back across the only places it was ever rolled out to begin with.
Yep.
And it was only ever rolled out to basically, keep the population just from just defecting en masse to the Soviet side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much. I got to go to the next person, but appreciate you calling.
Thank you.
All right. Let me get to Christian.
Can you hear me?
Hey there.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. Ah, cool talking to you. I didn't even expect to come on. Anyway, this is, I'm going to be all over the place with this. First of all, I guess I just want to ground everything in making it clear that I agree with you on pretty much virtually everything you usually say. In terms of the Democrats, they are to blame for Republicans continually, always coming to power. That's all on the Democrats because they don't deliver. So I agree with you on that. In terms of Cornel West being a spoiler, I just think this is one of the very few things where I think I feel like, I mean, there's no way to prove it, but I think you've just been off. I think just intuitively, yeah, of course he's gonna cause Biden to do worse. That's just how I saw it from the start. However, again, Biden has it coming. So I'm not saying it in the sense that, oh, screw Cornel West. So that's one thing. But yeah, actually, that leads me to the main thing I think that would be interesting to talk about. First of all, interrupt me at any time because I just had a bunch of coffee and I just keep talking. But yeah, let me just get to the thing I want to address, I guess, and then I'll let you talk. Because I'd be really curious to hear your perspective on this. So with Cornel West, I actually, part of me feels bad for him because I think he's being played by the people who have his ear. So there are good actors, in my opinion, such as Bernie Sanders. He's a good actor in the sense that he wants the best for the country, period. And he'll even put aside his own personal agenda for that. That's a good actor in my book. Same with Cornel West himself, a good actor. You remember actually, I don't even specifically remember, but from what I hear, I think he even endorsed Biden after Bernie dropped out in 2020 for the same reason that Bernie himself endorsed Biden, because he just wants to make a calculation. He tries to make a calculation and figure out what's best for the country. And so he does whatever he thinks is best. So he's a good actor. Now, I think just personally, I don't trust the people who have his ear currently down, which is, I guess, the main people would be Jill Stein and what's the other guy, Chris Hedges.
Mm-hmm.
Jill Stein, I actually specifically, what made me sour on her was I specifically remember in 2016, she sent out a campaign email guaranteeing that Trump could not win and therefore she should get donations. It was a fundraising email. She said, after this and that happened, one of Trump's controversies, he cannot win anymore. So now you don't have to worry about him anymore. Donate to us. She seems shady to me. I don't trust her. Chris Hedges, I remember him multiple times really shitting on Bernie, which is why I initially brought up, Bernie as a good actor. Chris Hedges shitting on Bernie, claiming that Bernie is I don't want to take up too much time, but you get the point. Now they have Cornel West here, and I feel bad for Cornel West because I do think the rational thing, the thing for him to do with the best eventual outcome would have been to run as a Democrat. I think that's fairly inarguable. That would have the best outcome in various ways at the end of the day. Now he won't do it because, like I said, of the people who have his ear. So I guess the main question to you is you can address what I've said so far, as well as let me know, let us know what you think Cornel West should have done. Should he have run as a Democrat, or do you actually like him running as a Green as opposed to running as a Democrat? Go ahead. Thanks for listening.
Sure. I actually don't think him running as a Democrat in this particular situation would have necessarily been better for him, because there are currently two people running as a Democrat, and the Democrats have not allowed a primary. So to me, whether it's Cornel West or anybody else, the way you get movement and momentum in primaries is, well, there's a couple ways. Obviously, your policies, but overall, it debates. Debates have helped. Bernie started shooting through the roof in 2016 after the first couple debates. Obviously, the rallies and those kind of things were a big part of it, but you need face time. And with even primary debates, you could have between 5 to 10 million viewers. So if Cornel West was running in the Democratic primary right now, I see no evidence they would hold any debates, which is undemocratic and bullshit, in my opinion. I still don't know why Marianne Williamson and RFK have not agreed to, 2 or 3 debates and, organize some, whether it be Joe Rogan or others, which would shame Joe Biden and the Democratic Party and probably help both of them in terms of their numbers going up. But anyway, I don't know. I don't see any evidence that in this particular case, it would have helped Cornel West more running in the Democratic Party, again, because they're refusing to hold a primary. Now,
to be fair, off the get-go, he's a bigger name, much bigger name. Continue.
Yes and no. I mean, I would say arguably RFK Jr. in the Democratic primary is the bigger name just because of the last name Kennedy. So could Cornel West, if he was running in Democratic primary on name brand and some of the Bernie voters, could he have started at maybe I don't know, 8 to 10%. Yeah, maybe. But he started under the Green Party at 4 to 6%, and he has
He would have at least increased the odds of a debate, right? He would have increased the odds of there being a debate between Biden and any one of them, right? As opposed to the way it is right now, there won't be any debate no matter what.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. The other thing that I think is in the negative for Cornel West, which would have been a stronger thing in running in the Democratic primary, is if you're running for the Green Party, I mean, literally, you cannot really have a campaign until a year from now because he can't.
Yep. That one's big too.
He can't win the nomination till I got to look. I think it's in the spring. So obviously, in the Democratic primary, you don't have, you're running to win their nomination, so you can, do all the interviews and rallies, and you're not waiting to be the Green Party nominee. So to me, in this case, I think it's a good thing he's running Green Party. I also disagree with you in terms of I don't see any evidence that Cornel West is going to literally peel off voters that would have voted for Joe Biden and are switching to Cornel West. Of course, there might be some.
Maybe.
There might be some. But by the data, in 2016, the overwhelming majority of Jill Stein voters that were polled after said that if Jill Stein didn't run, they were not voting. I don't see a
to me, it's almost like you are anecdotal evidence. Listening to your passion as opposed to 2020, where you made the case for potentially voting for Biden being better than letting Trump win, which I do agree with, and it is a very I'm always torn with this, as I'm sure you are because there's the personal passion as opposed to the trying to be rational, and you get pulled back and forth. It's not easy. But anyway, point being, I mean, you're very passionate about Cornel West, as am I. I love the guy, and so he does pull people in a way that most other candidates, or especially Green Party candidates, would not pull people. But anyway, I want to give you.
Well, I also think I'm not going to tell people what to do, and I also wouldn't I'm not going to criticize people in swing states if they vote for Joe Biden. I don't think I'm not one of these people who are like, you're a sellout or you're a fraud. No. I do understand why people in swing states, even if they can't stand Joe Biden, would, hold their nose and vote for Joe Biden, because we shouldn't minimize Trump, DeSantis, these people. I mean, they are a grave threat. They are autocrats. They're wannabe fascists. We've seen reporting on what Trump wants to do if reelected. So I understand in swing states why you would, but for me, it's not my role to tell people how to vote. I just feel I'm going to cover Cornel West accurately. I'm also going to debunk bullshit about the spoiler thing, because to me, by the data now, a significant margin of black voters and younger voters who voted for Biden in 2020, as of now, are not going to vote for Biden. It doesn't necessarily mean that
that's fair. You could totally be right.
It doesn't necessarily mean all fair. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to vote Cornel West. But right now, I think the bigger problem for Biden is those voters just not voting.
Yeah, and let me just give you credit for one quick thing regarding the previous call. I do think you're totally right that the Democrats, to a large number of party Democrats who have power, actually play with fire, don't mind playing with fire. They don't mind Trump winning. They don't understand the threat of Trump. And funny enough, people like you who are usually seen the opposite way, you do understand the threat of Trump a whole of a lot more than someone like, who might be high up in the Democratic Party. So it's all really twisted and messed up. And they are playing with fire. And I do think you're right. The Democratic Party is really who's to blame the most for all the shit that we're in.
But that's it for me. I also think at a certain point, it's not the voters' responsibility to remove us from the fire. Biden and the Democrats
the people in power
right now. I mean, I interviewed Dave Dayen last week. There's executive actions he could take right now that I think would persuade a lot of voters. He's not doing it because his donors don't want him to. It's as simple as that.
That's where I find your commentary cathartic, because that's where I tuned in today. That you started off mentioning these things, and I thought to myself, this is what I appreciate Jordan for. You always really accurately point out these things that the Democrats could do that would make a big impact and that would actually cause people to vote for them. So yes, you're totally right. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. You've boosted my ego.
Thank you.
You've boosted my ego and self-esteem. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
All right. Let's see if we got anybody else. All right. I think we'll do one more. Alvaro. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Alvaro.
Yeah, you said it correctly. Hey, what's up, Jordan? I have two questions.
Sure.
So I'm 23. I'm Gen Z. What's your view in the future of Gen Z doing something politically? Because we pretty much helped Joe Biden became president because of Gen Z. I know some other demographics, but Gen Z is one of the reasons. What is like your view, your outlook within 20 years for my generation in politics?
You're fucked. Yeah. What's my view? I think that honestly, I don't want to lie. I think that Gen Z right now is in a difficult position because I think that essentially, if you look at the last 30 years, the younger generation, including myself being a millennial, have borne the brunt between the between the Iraq War and then the 2008 financial crash. Obviously, COVID affected everybody, but young people also economically. I think all of that, it's magnified for Gen Z because really you're now having to deal with AI, automation, replacing jobs. A college degree, which is obscenely more expensive now, is not getting you as far as it might have used to. Basically the gig economy. So I think Gen Z, unless you do something different than millennials, and what I mean by that, I think Gen Z needs to start protesting with their wallets. I think Gen Z advertisers, what advertisers want is the young folks, is 18 to 35. That's the core sweet spot that advertisers want. I think young people need to be protesting with their feet, but also economically. I'm talking organizing economic boycotts against Amazon, big box retailers, corporate banking, even if it's your local banks to start. Hit them where it hurts in the wallet. And I've been saying this for years about everybody, but particularly Gen Z, because to me, that's the only thing that's going to change anything, whether it be the climate inferno, healthcare is threatening the people that run this country, which is the CEOs and the rich people. And the only way they feel threatened is if their quarterly profits go down, if they can't do as many stock buybacks, and if their money is threatened. So that's what I think Gen Z needs to be doing more. I see a little bit too much, TikTok. I don't mean to sound like an old folk, but I see too much like in the way of like younger people thinking they're doing something by like snappy videos, they get millions of views and stuff like that. That's great, but that people forget that after, 2 days. All right. I think young people, particularly Gen Z, need to start organizing economically because we've already seen we can have millions of people in the street. And a lot of those people were Gen Z. That's the George Floyd protest that we saw. And I always say, imagine if even like a tenth of those people had taken economic actions with their physical protests in targeting specific things to protest. So that's, if I had advice for like what Gen Z should be doing, it's the economic organizing, which you could connect with, these labor groups like Amazon Labor Union and the Starbucks workers, which are mostly Gen Z and millennials led. So that's my best advice. And I say Gen Z and everybody, I think we need to start getting a lot more aggressive in terms of protests, including putting our bodies on the line and chaining ourselves to a lot of shit because the climate is out of control. And unless, I'm not saying being violent, but I am saying more than just holding up signs.
All right. The other question, because you got perfectly with the TikTok, I was talking to my girlfriend and we both agree that for our generation, this could be a perfect time. You know how I think the baby boomers did in Vietnam? I think we could seize the moment for control, like how like I want to say the hippies forced Richard Nixon to do EPA, do lots of left-leaning things that he didn't want it to do, and that's why they created the war on drugs. That's how I see it. Like us, our generation, we're not seizing the moment. We're focusing on like attacking each other in TikTok because honestly, this is the perfect time to strike. And like, I'm a huge fan of Cornel West. Like for me, if we could rally around, Cornel West, they could do some damage. I'm not saying he's gonna win, but what I'm saying is like we need someone to galvanize. Like this is, for example, so with like the hippies pushing Ronald Reagan, the Republicans had Ronald Reagan to push away the hippies. So what would be us to have like a person we could rally around and change the establishment or change everything?
Well, first of all, let me say something that's going to definitely make me sound like an old folk. But part of the problem, all these young people that forced Nixon were out in Vietnam. Did you see one of them have phones in their hand? I mean, you people need to get the fuck off your phones. And me too. I'm not Gen Z. But my wife yells at me. I'm on my phone all day and Twitter. But literally, these things are destroying our brains and our ability to connect with each other. And I think that's actually partially the intent, because these tech companies, the more you're on the phone, the more you're glued to the screen, the more money they make through advertisers. But I think that's part of the problem, because people are so addicted to their smartphones or whatever that they're losing sight that you're not making change through your phone. You make change through, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in the streets. That's how it's happened throughout history. And I mean, I like literally was out over the weekend and I saw, I don't know, it was like a group of, they looked like they were like 15 or 16. And they were all like, I was walking my dog and they were all like kind of in a circle. They literally were all looking down at their phone instead of talking to each other. So yeah, I don't know the answer for that. I know there's been studies and research on, teens feeling suicidal and, all that from being social media. But I think that's a big problem, because it's like any other addiction. If people become addicted to things and that's their connection, whether it's alcohol or drugs or food, or that's what makes you feel connected or happy and triggers your dopamine and all that. Well, and it's not just Gen Z, obviously, there's plenty of people that are glued to their phone, but particularly younger people who have been exposed to these things since they were like 2 or 3 years old. So to me, that's something, that's a problem.
All right, that's all my questions.
And spread the coup to fellow 20-somethings. We got to get our Gen Z audience up.
Oh yeah, don't worry. I've been telling. You're one of the reasons why I got into politics.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So when I was watching, because when you were using TYT, I always felt that TYT was kind of grifty, and you were one of the very few people who were not grifty. So I could tell when I heard that, with your issue, when, you got fired, whatever, that bullshit, when you got into Status Coup, I was one of the very few people, very first people to subscribe, because I want to hear all the things you've done. I told my girlfriend watches you, a couple of my best friends, and I'm trying to convince more people, because in my group, I used to be the only left-wing people, and most of my friends were right-wingers. But that was like 2019. Now 2023. One of my other best friends, he's like a left winger now, just like me, and most of them are more moderate than they used to be. Like for example, they used to love Donald Trump. Now they're willing to vote for Biden, and one of the moderates are willing to vote for Cornel West. So I want to say thank you.
Yeah, if I didn't get canned from TYT, I probably wasn't going to be there much longer, because it was driving me crazy. They were really going into deranged territory, in my opinion, with the 24/7 Trump, and kind of, I felt not really. They didn't really want to cover the things I wanted to cover. They just wanted me to cover Trump 24/7. But yeah, I appreciate that. TYT obviously gave me the opportunity to like travel and cover these things on the ground. But I definitely think, aside from me being fired, I don't think I would have ended up staying there much longer anyway. But I'm glad you're getting into politics. If I could have helped, that's great.
All right. See ya.
Thanks, Ben. All right. I'm digging the more phone calls. I'll take one more. Humorous.
Hello.
Hey there.
Hey, buddy. What's going on with you today?
Just another day in the United Corporations of America, working on staying sane. How about you?
I'm not saying staying sane too much anymore, my friend. Would anyone like to know what I might know about the country of Florida? Because
the
it certainly
fascist,
isn't a state anymore. It certainly isn't a state.
The fascist territory of Florida.
Oh, it's beyond that. It's a new country. We have an emperor. We have the Nazis in place. I mean, this dude is literally building an army, a private army, under the guise of police that he can take out into America.
Well, I did see what he was trying to do with the election police, which was pretty scary. DeSantis.
Dude, he just made a law that says PragerU bullshit can actually be in our. Actually, it's mandatory to be in our schools now. Down here in the country of Florida. And the teachers won't be fired for selling that bullshit. But otherwise, you better run away as a teacher. I'll be perfectly honest with you. After summer vacation, I think the country of Florida will be lucky if they have enough teachers to actually open even half of the schools.
Really? You
It's
think
bad, dude?
You think
our oceans are dying?
Yep.
Everything.
Well,
it's all dying.
There was the Atlantic Ocean off of Florida was in triple digits last week. Coral reefs are bleached.
101 degrees. 101 degrees. Gulf of Mexico is up to 102.3.
Meanwhile, he's going around the country saying that black slaves learned valuable job skills. I mean, it's just too crazy.
Oh, you have no idea, dude. This dude is literally out of control. Trump, totally out of control. Everyone down here, no one is staying. I just can't escape anymore.
Well, and you know what's really, if I lived in Florida, I'd be worried about this. I mean, he's totally collapsing on the presidential election. I mean, he's just tanking. The New York Times poll has him, I think, 35 points behind Trump. He's now in third place, I saw, in South Carolina. This Vivek guy is almost tied with him. I mean, I said this was going to happen. My left toe.
That's Trump.
What's that?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, my left toe has more personality than Ron DeSantis. So ultimately, I think he's probably going to realize that he's got no shot unless he stays in hoping Trump will drop out, because he'll think, oh, Trump's going to be indicted 17 times and Trump will make a deal and I'll just stay in and hope, to be, in the right position when Trump drops out. But if Trump doesn't drop out, I think DeSantis might drop out, just thinking, I'm going to back Trump, so I stay in good stead with his cult, and I'll gear up for 2028. And in the meantime, let me do even more crazy shit in Florida to stay in good graces with Trump's cult. So he might.
Dude, Trump doesn't like that dude. He hates that man.
Oh, I know.
That's like a mini me. That's a mini me. DeSantis is a mini me of Trump, He just happens to be a little smarter. He does not have the charisma, but he is a bit smarter. Whether that means anything to anybody, because I don't think that dude's IQ is higher than 5, but whatever.
Oh, man.
I mean, he's literally building a private army down here that nobody seems to know about. It's up to 1,590 people. He's actually got helicopters on the way. Attack helicopters.
He's got attack helicopters?
He's bought them. Wherever he bought them from, I don't know. But they're on the way. And, oh, check this out. He raised his funding to do this private army up to $101 million from only $46 million. Where is he getting that money from?
Big fucking mega rich super PAC douchebags.
He's already lost 5 of his big billionaire donors. And Trump has lost 6.
Wow.
So, anything else you want to know about the dying country of Florida?
Well, if you get any video, G.I. Joe glow in the dark style of his secret police force, please send it to me. I'd like to see it.
He's just building it. That's all I know. Even the news knows about it. It just doesn't go out very far.
Well, the news there might as well be fucking.
It's literally every news station down here, I think, except for maybe Channel 9, is all Fox owned.
Of course. Of course.
And these people are so brainwashed. Dude, anybody want a job? There's 800,000 jobs down here. And we have fields of total stuff to do that are literally rotting in the fields. Not one white boy ever came up and said, I'll do that. Thanks for giving me a job. I can't do that. It's too goddamn hot. But the thing is the people that actually dealt with it, they're gone. They ran away.
Well, there could be 700 million jobs there. Are they going to pay for the skyrocketing homeowners insurance in the free state of Florida that DeSantis has allowed?
Oh, dude, don't you know that State Farm is leaving? The largest insurers of home in the state of, or the country of Florida? State Farm is literally bailing out.
Wow.
They're done.
Wow.
So homeowners insurance won't be a thing of the future. Not down here. Me, I don't have to worry about it. I live in the woods. I live in a garage. Oh, and that's something that everyone might like to know. The people that were helping, well, I couldn't help them as much anymore because I'm pretty much out of funds.
Yeah.
So 6 of them are now dead. 2 are in a crazy house. The other ones are scattered to the winds. Can't find them.
Jesus Christ. Well, I might have to make my way back to my alma mater.
All because of the militarized police that don't even give a shit. Why would anybody give a shit where these people were staying? Nobody actually owns that property. It's just there. But somebody keeps sending them in, chasing us away. I used to be able to get vans and move them very quickly so the cops wouldn't bother them. And I'd have to find new places. I can't do that. Now 6 of them are dead.
Hey. Well, enjoy your freedom and life while it lasts there in the woods.
There's no freedom here anymore. I constantly have to run all the time. Literally. The only safe place I have is the garage anymore. And I'm very thankful for that. And you know why I get that, dude? Because of all the people that I've actually helped through my life.
Well, you've certainly helped us quite a bit, which we appreciate.
Yeah. And I continue when I can. And when I can't, I don't. I just simply, do what I can anymore. That's it. I don't have to spend quite as much trying to help 15 to 20 people survive. So there's a couple extra bucks once in a while for a super chat or something.
Thank you, sir. I got to go because I got to go tend to my kid before she goes to bed. But I appreciate.
Yeah. How's your baby, man?
Good.
Everything cool in your family?
Yeah. She's growing.
Awesome.
About to be 9 months. Everything's good.
How's your wife? Is she good and doing good?
Yeah. She's, would like me to be working a little less, but what else is new?
I'm sure of that. Wouldn't all people like to work just a tiny bit less for a little bit more?
She's a great mother and a great wife. No complaints. So
that's a good thing, dude. Then you really do have your freedom.
For now, in America, yes. All right. Thank you, sir.
Well, at least you're still living in America.
Oh boy. Maybe I'll make it back down.
Good night, my friend.
All right.
What?
Maybe I'll make it back
What
down.
did you say?
Maybe I'll make it back down to my alma mater soon. I went to school in Tampa. Maybe
I wouldn't suggest that. You may never leave here.
Oh boy.
Though we do have Farron. He
Yes.
lives in Matt Gates' little department of the universe. And I'm surprised he hasn't been killed yet by all the laws that this crazy emperor is implementing.
Yep. I do appreciate
this
Farron.
dude has literally made laws that if you protest against what he says, people are allowed to run you down.
Yes. That is the law in Florida that they passed to allow people to run over protesters with no criminal liability.
Yes.
Yep.
As long as they are protesting what he says.
Yep.
And by the way, wow, you're allowed to bring a gun down here and hunt gay people for sport, like you would go hunting.
Oh, God.
You're actually allowed to do that in Florida.
It has become a little too 1950s South for me down there. All right. I got to run.
Bro, this is beyond that. You have a great night. Say hi to your wife.
I shall. All right. Thanks.
Because sometimes he has left things for me, messages on your little talk chat stuff. So,
all right.
Not
Thanks.
very often, but she has.
She does.
Bye-bye, bro.
Bye-bye. All right. Good. A good row of calls. Maybe we'll do the calls later this week. I wish we could do calls when Steve was on, but right now we could only figure out how to do it with one host. But thank you for the calls. Let me read some super chats. Alex, $5. Some dinero for Status Coup. Love the work you do. P.S. Are you going to read your book or have James Earl Jones do it? I might have humorists do it because he has one hell of a voice of God. If I get this book published, which I think, fingers crossed, I think is going to happen, I'm going to do an audio book for sure. Mike Thompson, $5 super sticker. Thank you, Mike. Just Isaac, $9.99. I really appreciate it. Joshua, $10. Come to think of it, Jordan, what do you think will happen next year before the summer conventions? And do you think we should watch out for rabid supporters? What do I think is going to happen before the summer conventions? I am hoping some type of very long-lasting protest movement. some type of Occupy Wall Street ×2, or something bigger than even that. Hopefully something of the economic kind, whether it's sparked by the climate catastrophe or something else. And I would love rabid supporters to be attached to it. And I think the Democratic convention is going to have significant protests this year. I think it's in Chicago. Obviously, we know the history of the Democratic convention in Chicago in 1968. Carpe diem, $2. Dems don't mind losing. Fundraising opportunity. Yeah, I mean, that's the truth. They have made a lot of money being losers. Lee, $50. Thank you so much, Lee. Really appreciate that. Very generous. Thanks for all you do to keep us informed. Thank you for helping to keep the lights on. Glenn, $49.99. Thanks so much. The spoiler narrative pushed by DNC media apparatchiks needs to be called out for what it is, a logical fallacy. It sounds true at first blush, but isn't supported by facts. We should turn it upside down. Biden is the spoiler. Yeah, well, I've heard that on Twitter from Peter Dow quite a lot. Peter Dow used to be a big Democratic establishment Hillary supporter, but has turned into a totally independent third-party advocate, and he has been calling for Biden to drop out, saying that Biden himself is the spoiler, which by the data and the polls, Biden's going to lose whether there is a third-party candidate or not. Right now, if the election were held today, I think Biden has a very, very, very good chance of losing to Donald Trump. Whether there was no third-party candidate or there is a third-party candidate, I think he'd lose either way right now. I think it would be very close. But as of now, I mean, Biden only beat Trump by 20,000 votes in Wisconsin. He only beat Trump by 80,000 in Pennsylvania. Michigan, 150,000. That's Wisconsin, obviously 20,000. That could be reversed like that. 80,000, 150,000 is not the blowout that cannot be reversed. And I think a lot of those voters might switch back. They might not love Trump. They might not love the craziness, but on the economy, the polls are showing that voters trust the Republicans on the economy more than Democrats, which you have to be a pathetic party to allow Republicans to be, for people to think Republicans are better on the economy, because Republicans are horrendous on the economy and screw you equal, if not worse, than the Democrats do. Penny, $5. F fuel bad, but FF used for rare earth mining. DR Congo blood, cobalt, toxic lithium mines, EV batteries, solar panels and turbines and landfills, ? I'm not positive what you're talking about, but I will say I did actually reach out earlier today for an interview request to a Native American tribe that has a lithium mine being built right on its sacred land where their where their ancestors are buried. And that lithium mine is in Nevada. It's on the border of Nevada and Oregon. So I might have an interview on that. Penny, another $5. Thank you. France has colonial hangover. Macron still raised pension age, defends police brutality, shames immigrants. I think Macron is Obama in the French white version. Tony D, $1.99. That video montage of your reporting is amazing. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it. Colin did a good job there. Penny, another $5. MNDNR received millions from Enbridge to pay KK cops to end Line 3 protests. Now several aquifers are breached. Thanks, Klobuchar. Ugh. Don't get me started. Do not get me started on Amy Klobuchar. She's horrendous and did nothing to stop Line 3, among other terrible things. Thank you, everybody, for the super chats. Thank you. If we got any members, remember, if you're not yet a Status Coup member, that is the way to help us grow for the long haul. StatusCoup.com/join. StatusCoup.com/join. You can become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Thank you. Bart just signed up as a member during our live stream. So that's one new member, Bart. And we're going to have our members only call Thursday night at 7 o'clock Eastern. So if you sign up as a member before Thursday night, you will get the Zoom link. Sign up to our website, StatusCoup.com/join. And as a member, you get access to our monthly members call. I will see you back here tomorrow